Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the show.
On a beach in the sand, I think of you. I think of you. Did you realize I love you all my life? And when you're gone, I'm more alone.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the show. I am Curt Williams, your host, metaphysician, hermeticist, and spiritualist. Now, we're getting to the end of the book. I'm very excited about this part of the book because, have you ever heard that expression, the destination or the journey? Well, I'm one of the people who would select the journey because writing this book is evidence of how much you can learn and how much you can grow through the process, of course. Now, I don't know if you've noticed or not, but the main character in this book is the character Hermes, the thrice born. Hermes is, in my opinion, the greatest being that ever stepped foot on this planet. And that includes Jesus, simply because he was the teacher of Jesus. When Jesus was a boy, he went to Hermopolis, which was a city named after Hermes, and he went to the mystery schools there where he was instructed on his role. Now, I don't know if you realize this or not, but the book started off with Hermes having a conversation with Jesus when Jesus was about 13. And the book ends with Hermes and Jesus. Hermes, the thrice born, was responsible for the persona of Jesus Christ. That is what this book is telling you. The only statue that was ever created of Hermes back in Egypt that they have come to realize was a statue of a man who had a sheep around his shoulders. And that statue was entitled The Good Shepherd. Well, as you know, that was also a label given to Jesus. The reason I say Hermes was responsible for Jesus is simply this. The Jews at the time were getting a little tired of this period of time called the Messianic period, where some Messiah was supposed to come and blah, blah, blah. Or they were getting tired of hearing about what God was supposed to be in literature. And they wanted to see something in the flesh. Hermes realized this, and he said, okay, well, why don't we create a persona of an individual who fits the bill? God in the flesh. We will call him the Son of God, which is an impossibility for the creator of the universe to have one son when he's a part of everything? It's like sibling rivalries where somebody's trying to convince you that if you have three children, one of them's better than the other one because of certain reasons. Well, they're trying to manifest the persona of a only begotten son. Only people who don't understand what the creator of the universe is would conceive that. That would imply that the creator of the universe is flesh and blood. If you believe that Jesus Christ is the only begotten Son of the Creator, what that in fact means is you do not know what the Creator is. And it's not your fault. We've been taught that the Creator is everything that He is not. We've been taught about this malevolent or benevolent Creator who will destroy you. The creator of the universe is not. This is evidentiary. This lets you know that the biblical gods are not the same thing as the creator of the universe. Realize, people, that every minister that you've ever heard talk about God has no idea who the creator is. They all believe that Jehovah or Yahweh or even Allah is the creator of the universe, and it is not. The creator of the universe created them and everything else. If you cannot make the distinction between those, then you will never understand your own true glory. You are not a piece of Yahweh or Jehovah. You are in fact a piece of the creator of the universe. Some religions, some people call him the infinite all. Well, some call it the demiurge. If you look up the word demiurge, it says the creator and maintainer of the universe. Well, that's a far cry more than Jehovah and Yahweh. Very few religion pastors, priests, whoever, understand that what they've been talking about are minor deities that are far beneath. They call them fallen angels, and they will call them fallen angels forever because that's the only thing they can call them, because they don't know anything about them. They don't know where they're from. Well, they assume they're from heavenly realms, and their name starts with, Michael and Equal and all this kind of stuff. But that's just a minor part of the story. There are angels, and angels were created before mankind in the universe. That's true. But the way they define religion and gods is that anything that doesn't match what they want is basically considered a fallen angel. So you have a whole religions which discuss fallen angels in heaven and hell, and this is all wrong. Trying to talk to black people in particular, simply because we are the ones that are going to have the hardest time understanding this. We're going to have a very difficult time understanding this because we like to believe that our parents knew better than we could ever know. Life is not supposed to be where your parents know more or better than you're supposed to know. You are actually supposed to surpass your parents. You're supposed to take what your parents taught you and add to it, not just stick to it. And shame on parents who insist that their children follow what they believe. My boys, I got 3 sons, and I will teach them everything I know, and then they can go from there. I will not look at them like if they don't understand or believe what I'm telling them, I'm going to be mad at them or some kind of way. You're supposed to exceed me, not anyway. So we're talking about Hermes, and the reason Hermes is, in my opinion, the most important human being, because he has to be. Any human being who is first of all, he's called the scribe of the gods, which means He was the one who was interpreting what they were trying to say. He's the one that wrote it down. If you want to know where the Hebrew got their book, they got it from Hermes. Hermes is the one, he wrote over 2,000 books. He wrote it all. The Hebrew Bible is based on the teachings of Hermes. The whole thing is, the Bible that you're reading is not King James. Hermes started the whole thing. He was a scribe of the gods. He wrote it all down. He's the Corpus Hermeticus, all the old books that were written before the flood. Hermes was the one who wrote. He's the one that translated them into something that people can understand. And he was also there to teach cavemen how to quit eating dirt. He had to bring cavemen up to a level of civilization. We're talking about a being, when they say Hermes lived for 19,000 years, it wasn't it wasn't a straight 19,000 years. It was a bunch of years here, and then a break, and a bunch of years here. He would just reincarnate. He would reincarnate and come back and know exactly where he left off. He would leave things so he can pick up where he left off. So when we say 19 years of Hermes, we're actually talking about a period of time that stretched over a few 100,000 years. And in fact, these beings existed for long times like that. So Hermes, 200,000 years ago, he was there for the creation of mankind. He was there for the missing link. He was there for all of this. This is why I consider him to be the most important human being. How can you be the scribe of the gods, create alchemy, the founder of alchemy and geometry? There was no geometry before Hermes. Hermes got it from the Anunnaki, though. He got it from the Anunnaki and where he was from. But this place, this world, it was new. It was all new to this world. So he brought all of this knowledge from where he was from, Atlantis, to Atlantis. And then when the Anunnaki arrived here, they arrived here with the beings from Atlantis and Lemur already here. They were already here. So basically, and so when I say Hermes was responsible for Jesus, like I said, the Jews wanted to see a Messiah in the flesh. Hermes said, okay, we'll groom one. We'll create one. Jesus had no idea he was being groomed to be somebody that was going to label him something so important, and then he would have to die for it. It's almost like he had the same kind of role as a Martin Luther King. I don't know if Martin Luther King knew that what he's doing, he will have to die for it. Well, Jesus, kind of knew, but Hermes was in charge of creating this persona. There was a scribe back at the time when Jesus was alive, and he was in that region. Scribes, these are the people who wrote down things. There was no such thing as Jesus. There was no Jesus, the Messiah. He didn't write down anything, and he was in that region. But what he did do was he wrote information about a man that fit the description, and he called him the Egyptian. Well, you would call a person the Egyptian if he went as a child and studied in Egypt and came back from Egypt. Where are you from? I've been in Egypt. Well, you're Egyptian. So he did describe a person like Jesus, but he was called the Egyptian. So anyway, I agree with that. It's not that Jesus didn't exist. He existed, but he was a person. He was a creation of Hermes and somebody else. We're running out of time here. I need to introduce you to the chapter. Now, this chapter is from the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, the Halls of Amenti. So check out this chapter, and we will be right back.
Chapter 68, The Halls of Amenti.
They arrived at the Giza Plateau late the next afternoon. Two pyramid priests, Yeshua and Hermes, entered the Great Pyramid through a doorway near the base. Suddenly a 10-ton wall on the left side of Hermes began to move ever so gently. Like magic, the wall began to lean topsy-turvy until enough room was established that they may enter. This room led them to a corridor where they began traveling down many steps. The walls of the corridor seemed to be smooth and curved, as if it were made from a mold without cutting tools or masonry. They seemed to be cut out in some unknown fashion. Yeshua could not help but wonder how these cuts were made, and then Hermes said, "Stand away." The master knew that there was only one way to show Jesus the magic. So he raised his staff, pointing it at a large solid wall, and pointed it towards the flat surface. Then came what could only be described as some form of energy with a vibration that began to emanate from the staff to the wall. The wall began to change colors, from a soft blue, to burning red, then a pulsating white. Then with the smell of burning rock, the wall simply disappeared into nothing, leaving a large opening to yet another room, and then another, then down into more rooms. Yeshua and the priest were astonished and beyond belief at the power and precision of the instrument. Once they seemed to have reached their desired depth, they came across what could only be described as an underground temple with many halls and many doors. Master Hermes began to change slightly, into what seemed to be the persona of Thoth the Atlantean, as he then began to speak in a low reverberating voice, as they all gazed in great reverence upon him.
Deep in Earth's heart lies the halls of Amenti, far beneath the islands of sunken Atlantis. Halls of the dead, and halls of the living, bathed in the fire of the infinite all. Far in a past time, lost in the space-time, the children of light looked down on the world. See the children of men in their bondage, bound by the force that came from beyond. Knew they that only by freedom from bondage could man ever rise from the earth to the sun. Down they descended and created bodies, taking the semblance of man as their own. The masters of everything said after their forming, "We are they who were formed from this space dust, partaking of life from the infinite all, living in the world as the children of men, like and yet unlike the children of men. Then for a dwelling place, far beneath the earth's crust, blasted up great spaces, they by their power, spaces apart from the children of men, surrounded them by forces and power, shielded from harm. They, the halls of the dead, side by side then, placed them they of the spaces, filled them with the light and life from above. Builded they then the halls of Amenti, that they might dwell eternally there, living with the life till eternity's end. 32 were there of the children, sons of light, who had come among men, seeking to free from the bondage of darkness those who were bound by the force of those from beyond.
The emerald tablets of Thoth. Thoth then began to explain all that he knew to Jesus about the beings from Nibirish version of the creation of mankind on earth, from the time before the flood, and the time after. He explained 2 separate accounts of the creation, one from DNA and clay, and one from a DNA adjustment program using primates as a base product, and how he was a part of it all. One technique before the flood, while the other after, respectively. Jesus asked then, "Does this make them our gods?"
"No," said Thoth, "it does not. It was only their knowledge of science that made it so, not their knowledge of creation. Yes, they have replicated many things here, such as foods and plants and buildings, but only to replicate, not to create. That is the work of your Father, the Infinite All, who created all things. Now that's not going to make them think they are not the gods of earth, which they do. Along with another person I will discuss with you at a later time."
Yeshua then asked if he could at least know the names of the other persons that will believe they are God. Thoth simply said, "Actually, there are 2.
One is an army of soldiers from the Empire of Rome. The other is one only. Yet he is greater than any army of men, and he is from high above in the ethereal realm, where I have been many times while I travel in my spirit while I slumber, and have had many dealings with him. He is the wisest and the most knowledgeable being in the universe, second only to your Father, the All, yet greater and more powerful than all the gods together, and he is an archangel, and his name is—"
Just then there was movement down the halls. And that movement could mean one thing only. and that was the awakening of the 13 judges of the halls of Amenti. Those who judge the dead and decide of which heaven they shall reside for the next 1,000 or so years. Then Hermes, who was suddenly back to his old self, and the priest proceeded hurriedly down the halls to meet them, for to meet the judges while you were still alive was the chance of a lifetime.
Subscribe and push the like button.
So, if you weren't able to follow the book, what the book is telling you is simply this. You had Hermes. Hermes, when he wasn't here on earth, and we talk about how he would reincarnate and come back, in the middle of those times, he was able to go to heavenly realms and hang out as a spirit. I'm a spiritualist. You are a spiritualist. Your spirit has the ability to do that. Hermes had the ability to do that and find people and learn things. That's why he was so important, because when he left here, he would go to a place like what we would consider heaven or wherever, and he would learn things. One of the persons he hung out with during that time was Lucifer. He hung out with Lucifer because he knew Lucifer knew a lot of stuff. He knew what Hermes wanted to do was experience the upper realms of heaven, which he couldn't do. He wasn't qualified to do that. So he did the next best thing. He got tight with Satan. And Satan, in my book, is not as bad as you think. Satan's problem was never a battle with the creator of the universe. That is impossible. You cannot battle with that. What Satan's problem was Jehovah and Yahweh, who were pretending to be gods and they were not. That's what the problem was. Now, this is the way it was supposed to go down. Hermes being the scribe, he knew how important it was for you can create religion and deities into anything you want. All you had to do was write it into the canon, write it into the literature. Hermes and Lucifer had an agreement with Jehovah that they would be written into the canon, just like Jehovah and Yahweh. Jehovah is actually the father of Yahweh. Real names, Anu and Enlil. Okay, so this is a father-son team. Well, Lucifer wanted to be in that line of because there's nothing wrong with having 4 or 5 gods. The Greeks did it. Everybody else did it. So let's have 4 or 5 gods. Lucifer, who knew these were fake gods, wanted to be a god like them. And Hermes. So they made an agreement. Jehovah said, okay, you guys can be a god along with us. And at the last minute, Jehovah said to Lucifer and Hermes, you can't be a god like us unless you bow down to my creation, Adam, because Jehovah's people were responsible for the creation of mankind on earth, which doesn't make you the creator of the universe. It just means you messed up because you made some people and you weren't supposed to. As soon as Lucifer was told he couldn't be one unless he bowed down to Adam, that's when Lucifer had a fit. That's when Lucifer said, I will never, ever, ever bow down to something that you made out of some clay. He wasn't entirely made out of clay, but there was clay involved. This is what happened to Lucifer and Hermes. Basically, people want to say Lucifer got kicked out of heaven. You wasn't kicking Lucifer out of nothing, especially if your name was Yahweh and Jehovah, because you're talking to an archangel who's been there way before you was there. You're not kicking him out of anything. So to circumvent the fact that Lucifer couldn't be a god, like you're supposed to be today reading the Bible, and then Lucifer says, thou shalt be, he's supposed to be in there. But he wasn't. This is when Lucifer decided, Lucifer and Hermes. Well, Hermes went along with it because he was mad because he couldn't be, they didn't want him to write him into the canon. So Lucifer kind of went along, Hermes kind of went along with Lucifer when Lucifer said, I'll just take over this whole thing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create you a God in the flesh. And we will call him Son. We will call him the Son of God. Lucifer was, in fact, the brains behind the creation of the persona of Jesus Christ. Jesus didn't know about it. Jesus was completely unaware that he was being groomed to be a Messiah. Jesus came here. They made up how he was born. They did it the same way Horus was done. They hid him and groomed him to be this Messiah. He didn't know. It wasn't his fault. He didn't come here talking about everybody's going to worship me, and if you give me your blood, you will go there. No, this was nothing. Jesus was a real, regular rabbi. He was a rabbi. He was a Jewish rabbi, and he had a wife and kids. So basically, they created the persona of a Jesus and convinced religion to write that this person, instead of the Enlil, the Yahweh and Jehovah, who will put you in hell in a minute, this one, the Son, will love you. He will love you and he'll protect you. All you got to do is give your soul to him. Once you give your soul to Jesus, you will be good to go. That is a Lucifer thing. That's the trick that Lucifer played on humanity. So Lucifer is like, while you're bowing down and praising Jesus, guess who you're really praising? You're praising the one that sent him. This is why religions are kind of off. They're supposed to be this wonderful thing, but yet and still they like the war, they like to kill. They'll hate me for saying what I'm saying because they're taught to hate. The Bible will teach you how to love and hate. The paradox between the two, love and hate, save and kill, go to heaven or hell. It's that paradox. It's a Lucifer thing. He made it that way so people would be involved. All the born again Christians, what you're really doing is you're catering yourself. You're honoring your creation of Satan, of Lucifer. Jesus never said the things that the Bible says. Jesus never said, give me your soul or you'll go to hell. That's a Lucifer thing. There's no such thing as hell. Who's going to come up with hell? Lucifer. Because he wanted to capture souls, and he used Jesus to do it. This is what this book is telling him. It's a complicated book. You got to read it about 5 or 10 times to understand all of this. That's why I'm explaining it, and that's why we have little videos. But we're getting to the end, and like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Thank you for coming.
Love me too, love me too, love me too. Right there, right there. Love me
subscribe and push the like button.